All right. First off, can y'all hear me? Okay. All right. My fault. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Cool. All right. Let's talk about Kwanzaa. Of course, y'all know I'm gonna make a little twist on this because I'm gonna go through a little bit of history, but I want to throw some stuff up that I've been uh that I, of course, in my research I done stumbled upon because I love doing the research. I love the culture. I love sharing what it is that we have, but it's certain things that we often have to be confronted by. So let's talk about it. Kwanzaa, of course, those that know here know. So I'm warming up for possibly people who don't know. Y'all recording? You need to be recording because I'm recording. But I want to make sure people can get hold of this. So the origin story. So the first Kwanzaa supposedly happened in 1966, but we knew it had to be researched before that. So we don't know how long he was researching before he came up with the idea. Kwanzaa was officially created in 1966, or first practiced by Dr. Malana Karinga and his group, us, during the height of what was going on with us, Black Power movement, during the height of the Black Power movement. It wasn't just a party, it was a response to what was going on with us as a people at that time. In some studies, they say it was a response to the Watts riot, but we know other stuff was going on as far as his research. We were searching for identity in the midst of the chaos that we were constantly being confronted with. The purpose, it was designed to reaffirm, and restore our African heritage and culture. It introduced in Gye-Nyame 7 principles to serve as a value system for our daily lives. Now, reaffirm, restore, because part of the issue for us was that we were, in many ways, and still up to this day, unconscious Africans. We were practicing because you could see the continent, you could see the essence of our people and how we walked and how we treated our elders and the food we ate and our creativity. But we were unconscious Africans. And I think during this period, during this period, we wanted to make being African a conscious aspect with us. And we're still kind of struggling with that today. All right. So the purpose was to reaffirm and restore African heritage and culture, introduced in Gye-Nyame to serve as a value system for our daily lives. So now, that I need to emphasize that it's a communal, non-heroic cultural holiday. All right. Now, because this was something that in my early days, we used to always have to make sure people understood. Because part of that aspect of Kwanzaa, a lot of people was like, I don't, those of us that's old enough to remember, a lot of people were scared of Kwanzaa, or they thought it was a replacement for Christmas, or thought it was some type of cult going on. But it's a communal, non-heroic, cultural holiday. So when you're talking to people, you let them know. And this is why. Non-religious. You could be a Christian, you could be a Muslim, you could be a Hebrew, you could be in any traditional religion you want. Kwanzaa is for the people, not a specific doctrine. It's for the people. It's non-heroic. We aren't worshiping a man or we're not celebrating some great achievement. We are celebrating us, the community. In fact, what's crazy about that, and I ain't gonna say crazy, but celebrating us, for those that know, you get it. It's celebrating us, United, because that was the name of the organization that Malana Karinga was at the head of. So let's look at the symbols real quick because I want to run through this. We got the makeka, the mat, the foundation upon which everything stands. It represents the history, tradition, everything. The Kanara stands on this. The Kanara represents our ancestry, which is the candle holder. We got the Mushuma Saba, which are the 7 candles. We got 3 red, the struggle, 3 green, the future, the hope, and the black people, the black candle. We got the Mazao, which is the crops, fruits and vegetables representing the harvest and the rewards of labor. We got the Kukumba Chao Moja, which I hope because Elder Tony had a cold one. I hope we are going to be able to use that for Kwanzaa. Use to pour libations to the ancestors and to sip together to reinforce unity. But we don't do that one no more because, a lot of, the world has changed. But anyway, the last one is the Zawadi. Well, I ain't going to say the last one, but the Zawadi is the gifts, the meaningful gifts, usually books or heritage items given to the children to encourage growth. Now, so family, we know the symbols, we know the colors, we know the history. We set the table every year. But look at the table again. We place the mazal, which is the fruit, on the table to represent the harvest. But what are we actually harvesting? Most of us don't farm, we don't grow corn, we don't grow tomatoes. So when we sit down at this table, if we haven't built anything, if we haven't produced anything, if we haven't created a system in the last 365 days, is the table empty? Because now, once again, the whole idea of Kwanzaa is more about symbols. It's the power of symbols. And I'm going to get into that discussion because I think a lot of times we miss it because sometimes we too deep and sometimes we not deep enough. So it's kind of hard being the people we are and being in the situation we are. So this brings me to the real discussion today. Kwanzaa is not just a time to light candles. It's a time to audit our power. We say it's a harvest celebration. So let's talk about the seeds we planted, the time we used to grow them, and why we need to stop operating on our oppressor's clock if we ever want to see the real crop. So let's get to the heart of this. Now, of course, we know we need to stop thinking about the fruit and the corn and all that because those, once again, are symbolic of something. We are celebrating the harvest, but most of us didn't grow a single tomato this year. So what are we really bringing to the table? We are harvesting the work, the wins, and the systems we built over the last 343 days. And I'm going to get into why I'm using the 343 days in a minute. The challenge, if you have nothing to show for the year, you have nothing to celebrate. Kwanzaa is an audit of our personal, I don't like using the word production, but our what value we have built as an individual and as well as a community. So, because we need to really look at those principles because it's a few of us that will come to these meetings and it's like we're not growing. So we need to really evaluate some of the stuff that we're doing so that we can see how do we attract others to what we're doing. So let's go. Now, one of the things I want to focus on in discussion Kwanzaa, because Kwanzaa is set during a certain period of time. So we got the history and the culture. But let me just, because I got to go by my notes, or y'all know how I get. I'm going to go by my notes. Let me stick to my notes. I'm doing good. Take a breath. Relax. We know they took our names, our language, and our God. But we never talk about how they took our time. Now, time is an element of culture. Different people deal with time differently. We are running on our oppressor's clock. If you run on their time, you produce for their empire. Now, we have to reclaim our relationship with time. That is why we look at the 343 days in Gye-Nyame. I'm going to talk about that in a second because it's 343 days. And then we got from day 344 up to 365 and a quarter. We call that our break. It's a rest called the Great Pause, right? And Gye-Nyame, I'll come back to that in a minute. Hold on. So, one of the things that I want to bring forth with this is talking about what white folks call a power loop, but I'm going to call it the liberation loop. All right. So now let's break down this power loop, because now we can see it in its modern formation with these tech bros and what happened with MAGA or the Christian nationalists, right? So after looking at these, things start clicking, and as I'm going through my studies, I run into this thing called the power loop. So I'm going to run through this for you real quick. And I want to take it, I'm going to transform it so that we could use it for us, so that we could think about it as a community on how to use it for us. And I'll bring back the time in a minute. So this specific loop looks like this. Step one is the ideology. So if we look at the tech bros, they have an ideology that they want to practice. We look at MAGA, ideology. It's easier for MAGA because everybody is familiar with the ideology of MAGA, right? Christian nationalism and make America great again. Great again. We don't, they don't never tell you what the hell that means, but it's an ideology. And that ideology is backed up by research and by people generating ideas. Of course, because you need ideas for ideology. So you have the myth or the belief system. Then you have the investment, the money, the energy. And this is put into the ideology, right? So now the ideology makes it possible for investment, makes the investment needed. That investment is put into the ideology, and through the ideology, they are able to build power. Investment buys politics, state influence. And we can see that happening with MAGA. We can also see that happening with the tech bros, because for those of us that don't know, if you look at what these tech white boys are doing, they no longer believe in democracy. They're saying this out loud, period. They said democracy and capitalism cannot work together, and they want to run this thing like the old time. Instead of having a feudal system, they got a technocracy that they want to run, and they want to have little kingdoms. As a matter of fact, for those of you that are not paying attention, these rich white boys are going out and buying land and areas where they're building cities so that they could run it the way they want. So you got the ideology, you have the investment, which brings money, brings energy, brings people that believes in it together. They develop the mechanism to get power through investments. They invest in politics. They invest in influence. And from there, they use the political power to build the infrastructure. So in building the infrastructure brings more money, which brings returns, and that money is reinvested in the ideology, forming the loop that I'm talking about. Now, what's even deeper with the enemy, because a lot of stuff that we do, right, and a lot of stuff that we did in the past, we've been spooked out by it. Now, for those that don't know, and I'm just going to throw this just extra, there's a company called Palantir. Palantir is a corporation that was started by these rich tech dudes, and they are investing a lot in the politics, right? So Palantir, one of the owners is a dude by the name Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel funded the run for the guy that's the vice president. What's his name? What's the vice president's name? Anybody know? Right. He funds JD Vance, right? So now, but what's crazy for those of you who might be, in a sense, nerdy like me, because one of the things y'all know, I love mythology, folk tales, and all this stuff. Is anybody familiar with where the word Palantir come from? Palantir. You ain't got to look it up. I'm gonna tell you. But see, when I talk about mythology and stuff and the hero's journey, a lot of people be like, but these individuals, they understand the power of myth. They understand how this power loop works. Palantir it's a term that comes out of the mythology or the story of called Lord of the Rings. The Palantir was a device that if you touch it, it allows you to see everything. if you look at the function of Palantir, these white boys basically took their mythology and used it, used the idea of the mythology to create something that is now real. Palantir is a business that is designed to use technology to be able to help the government or be able to help whoever in power to see everything that they want to see so that they could better target people and either destroy you or discredit you or do whatever. Now, they're using the mythology for this. They're using their ideology. They're investing in their ideology. In investing in their ideology, they develop the power. In developing the power, they formulate the infrastructure. And in formulating the infrastructure, it brings returns that are able to be reinvested back into the ideology that allows this whole cycle to run. Now, how and why hasn't this idea or this process, how is it not being, how are we not able to do it? Why is it not happening for us? Right? So let's run through it real quick. We have the ideology already. We got the Nguzo Saba, but we lack the investment in the infrastructure. We do Kwanzaa once a year. We're not strengthening the whole concept as a community. In small pockets, we may be doing this, but we are not investing in the ideology of Kwanzaa, in the ideology of the Nguzo Saba, in the ideology of Pan-Africanism. We have not been investing in it. And I'm not just talking about money. You understand what I'm saying? So we got to be able to redefine what some of these investments look like. The danger, we cannot ask them, because part of the issue is once you develop the ideology, we cannot ask them to invest in our ideology, because if they fund it, they own it. We got to be clear about that. So when we are building this ideology, we got to understand that whoever puts the money into it gets to control it. So we have to be clear on who owns the ideology and be able to push it. For example, if we go back to the 70s, and a lot of people, this is crazy. The more I'm looking at it, a lot of people don't understand that the whole idea of black capitalism, that in a sense we still are pushing in our community, was basically a idea that was used to kind of derail the Black Power movement. A lot of us don't pay attention to that. They interfered with the Black Power movement by coming up with the idea of black capitalism and start sprinkling that, and eventually we started thinking that was our idea. See, because the clear piece that we have to be clear on is that the Nguzo Saba and capitalism cannot, and will not work together. You can't talk about collective work and responsibility and cooperative economics and be racing to the bottom. You understand what I'm saying? Because in the capitalism, the whole piece is you need somebody to take advantage of. So we have to be clear on our ideology. For example, once we start allowing them to invest in our ideology, it stopped being ours. And we start having ideas that's coming in. So we will say Ujamaa and not really understand that Ujamaa cannot work in a capitalist type system. Now, once we start developing our ideology, we cannot ask them to invest in our ideology. If they fund it, they own it. We must be our own venture capitalists. Our currency is our talent, time, and resources. See, because a lot of time we think that it's just the money that makes things run, but it's the people. Because when we listen to Dr. Kelsey, the major piece he's been kicking for these last few years is the wealth that we have. The real wealth that we have. The wealth is not in the money aspect, because we look at the money aspect because we've been trained to look at the money aspect, but we're missing the talent and the time investment that it requires. So I'm not just talking about money when I'm talking about investing in the ideology. We need to build the infrastructure or take advantage of the infrastructures that's already here. What are the infrastructures we need to look at? We got schools, We got recreation centers. We got things that we can do, or we can start investing in our time and our resources as Tawi, as Gye-Nyame, as any of these other Pan-African organizations, as ASCAT, that generate returns to feed back into our community, feed back into our ideology. Now, so if we look at the Nguzo Saba, it's structured in a way, or not even structured in a way, it has all the tools that we need. Kwanzaa isn't just a holiday, it's a personality test for us, right? Check this out. So one of the things that we've been experimenting with in Gye-Nyame for the last few years, those of you that's even step into my shows for a little bit, we don't say Monday, we say emoji. We will say Monday in mixed company, but if we are in a cultural space where we are surrounded by family, surrounded by tribe, we use those days. We are supposed to invest or give up push-ups, right? Because we're trying to shift how we think. We're trying to bring the ideology alive, right? So the point that I'm trying to make is this. We have to start, since we ain't got the money to invest, we have to start investing our talent and our time in our ideology. Once we start investing the talent and time in our ideology, then we'll start growing. Because a lot of people hear what we say, but they don't see it manifesting, right? We not only have to demonstrate that what we have is of value, but we have to demonstrate that it will bring value to other people's lives. But if we only practice it once a year, once a week, see, you can't liberate yourself from a system that is working to keep you oppressed 24 hours a day by thinking about your liberation once every hour, one hour in every 24-hour period. It don't work. We have to have individuals that are willing to invest 24 hours a day into this. We need to be like in Marcus Garvey's, because even with Garvey talk about we need to dream about it. We just got done saying the pledge. If you listen to the pledge goes so much deeper than just us saying it and us walking. He talk about dreaming about the flag. We need to be having African dreams. And we will maintain being caught up in this as long as we operate within what they have given us to operate within. We have to start taking back our time. We have to start listening. We need to stop looking at those days. And going even deeper. We need to do something simple. Like, for example, this is not Sunday. This is Amani. We need to recapture ourselves. We need to recapture our culture. We need to recapture how we deal with the time. We need to recapture and really start living our ideology and throwing it out there. Now, the challenge that I have, and I had this for the group that I just did, the initiation group, is for each of us to identify which principle we want on, because our ancestors have already created the system for us. We have the Nguzo Saba. It's 7 days in the Nguzo Saba. It's 7 principles. Those 7 principles can be spread out over 7 days. Now, in Ghana, where Mama Lona and Umoyaya are at right now, they have a day name system where when you are born, you not only get your name, but you get your day name. This means you was born on a certain day. And with that certain day comes certain qualities. Now, why am I talking about this? This is ideology. We need to become firm in our ideology. We need to, in some form or fashion, if we're going to use the Nguzo Saba, we need to use it every day. We need to invest our time and talent. Because we ain't got that much of a treasury. We ain't got that much of a treasury. But we have plenty of talent. We have plenty of time. Can we bring this thing alive for ourselves so people can see it operating within us? Because now let me say this. Years ago, when I started the underground, which was the predecessor to Gye-Nyame. When I started the underground, we used to wear black uniforms every day. And when the young people start seeing us and seeing us march and seeing us do certain things, young people started wanting to be part of what we had. So we started growing. We grew a little bit too fast, hence I got to start over. But anyway, the point that I'm saying is people will respond once they start seeing us invest in our time and our talent into the stuff that we're talking about. Now, let me go on and finish because I don't want to hold you up too much longer. Everybody has a principle they was born on. So we can use the system that they use in Ghana, the Gye-Nyame system, but rather than use that, why not apply the Nguzo Saba? Each principle has a meaning, and we can define each, how can I put it? It's basically laid out where each day will tell you about you, give you an idea. Now, I have already built the program for this, right? And it's crazy. I'm able to generate readings, and anybody that's on here that has had a reading, you can ask them how close it is to the characteristics. Not so that we could tell futures, but the piece that I'm trying to do is help people to plug into our ideology directly from their personal lives, right? So that they can have something to talk about. What do you mean you a Kuji Chaglia born? Give people points that they could talk about. And in that, taking back our time, right? Taking back, having an idea of our time. Now, 343. So we've been told that the year is 365 and a quarter days, which in order for us to stay in tune with the sun, we could do that. But what I recently came across, because when I formulated the calendar, me and Kwame had a discussion with Dr. Kelsey. Dr. Kelsey came up with a graph for like daily activities. I can't remember exactly what it was for, but it was a grid. And me and Kwame started talking. I said, man, we already doing the days, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? We know what day we was born on. So Kwame basically did the math and came up with a 7x7 grid where we are able to put all the days in it. And what we did was, rather than breaking it down into 12 months, we break the year down into 7 49-day periods, which will bring us up to 343 days. Now, from 344 to 365, we call that a break, where we are preparing ourselves for our celebration in Kwanzaa and all that, giving us the opportunity to take our time back. If nothing but symbolically, we're taking our time back. Tomorrow for me, I'm starting what I call my great pause. I'm slowing down. I'm looking around. I'm looking at some of the stuff I did last year. I'm counting up my wins so that when it comes time for Kwanzaa, I could present to the community what I have built, because I have taken time to look back and look at that, right? Bringing the ideology to life, investing my time in the ideology. Now, also, another way that we could invest our time in our ideology. What's wrong with us, in a sense, bringing back Shule Saturday schools? We have a school that's a quarter mile around right now that has classrooms that right now are empty, that we could be filling up every weekend if we decided to. Now, also, I'm going to say this. What would be wrong, rather than us focusing on reading and writing and math, which is necessary, what if we started gearing up our young people to start moving into the positions of power so that we will be able to start developing the infrastructure we need? For example, I've been talking about running for mayor. Right? I done said it, so I'm going to have to do something about it, right? But my brother called me the other day and said, hey, man, you're going to have to be willing to be sitting on the phone for 2 hours or 8 hours to raise the money. And I'm like, I ain't trying to be beholden to nobody like that. Is there something else that we could do? Is there something else that we could run for that is affordable for us, so that I can at least lay the groundwork to inspire one of the young people coming from us to start running for a higher office so that we can move slowly and progressively to what we need, right? The political aspect of Tawi, of ASCAT, of Gye-Nyame, we have not really been talking about that. We have not really been talking about nation building in a sense to where we are actually talking about nation building. How do we stand politically, right? Our ideology is incomplete. And we have to start sitting down and having discussions about what are we going to do about bringing this ideology to life. So because once again, if you look at how that loop work, that power loop work, I call it the liberation loop, ideology justifies people investing in it. Once you throw the idea out and you start working with it and you start making it look like it works, other people will invest in it. Once again, since we don't have money, we invest what? And what else? Time and talent. Time and talent. We have plenty of that, right? So one of the things that I'm doing right now is, or actually what we're doing, because we're doing Kwanzaa on the 27th and 29th. On those nights, we're calling for people to rep their principle. We want you to find your principle because we want Kwanzaa and we want the principles to become a personal thing that people, I want people coming in talking about what their principle is. So now how can we make it interesting for them to explore at least one of the principles, at least one. I'm going to stop right there. Cause I don't want to, how long have I been going? Is it too long? Am I boring y'all? What's going on? All right, I got three more things and I'm done real quick. I call it a vibe check. If Kwanzaa is a harvest, what is the one thing you grew this year that you are bringing to the community table? 2. Oh, hold on. Because this is for the discussion next week. Number 2, do you feel like your schedule and your time belong to you, or does it belong to your job? Of course, people going to be calling me while I'm talking. And where are we currently leaking our investment? Are we funding their ideology instead of ours? So I'll stop right there, Elder Pillars. Ashe.